Hey everyone, so I want to talk about this Cancer new moon that's going on right now. It just happened around 5 a.m. or so on the West Coast. Um, and we should be feeling this for the next 2 weeks, but the first 3 days are the most intense that we'll feel it. We'll be feeling the new moon. It's happening at 21 degrees of Cancer, and it is in conjunction to Mercury retrograde in Cancer. And Mercury has just passed through the sun, so it had a cazimi, so it just, Mercury energy, which is retrograde right now, just got refreshed. And I think that this new moon being in Cancer is going to give us a lot of opportunity as it relates to our feelings. We just got out of about a year of Jupiter in Cancer, so we're still kind of working out or kind of shedding the residual layers of that as it relates to Jupiter energy in Cancer, which is, expanding our understanding of who we are, where we come from, what's most important to us, our home, our family, the major necessities to us, and whatever knowledge or understanding that we extracted from that are some of the layers that we're shedding right now through this Mercury retrograde period, and now this new moon that is in conjunction. And so it's giving us a lot of time to process this stuff. And Cancer is very much a sign that gets a little too over-identified with its clan. They're too much relating to their the people that are most important in their life, their family specifically, and those who feel like home or family to them. So they're very much hung up on the reactions and the responses of other people to feel good and, to identify with, to feel like they have a strong sense of identity is seeing how people feel around them, how they respond to them, how they react to them. And so they run the risk of losing themselves as it relates to who they care about most in their family and their home, and the fear of that. So there's a fine line with Cancer, probably more than any sign even, as it relates to fear and intuition. Now, Cancer has amazing intuition with the emotions of everybody around them, knowing how everyone else is feeling and being in tune with that. And that's where their intuition comes on. But what happens is, because they're so attuned to that and they're so over-identified with that, Cancer tends to run the risk of, as it relates to their own growth and their own personal life and their own stuff and their own emotions, to not be so intuitive. It's more fear-based. And then as it relates to themselves, it can carry back on to others. And so even their intuition they have towards others can also produce some irrational fears as well. So Cancer kind of has like a boundary issue too. They're a cardinal sign, so they're, when you think of being ruled by the moon and think of cardinal water, they're always initiating an emotional response, they sort of like kind of come at you in I could say a manipulative way, where like as it relates to like they're kind of enforcing how they want you to feel, their own emotions onto you, and this is a time right now, I think, to understand Cancer energy, because there's no really major aspects other than the Mercury retrograde that's also in Cancer. So this is very much about processing and digesting our own feelings and our own emotions, our own sensitivities, and all the things that relate to the mother, even the father, this family in general, but especially the mother, and things that relate to our own personal security and our innermost sanctuary of our soul. And this boundary issue too that Cancer has is like, so they struggle with boundaries a little bit, because they fall into with the cardinal energy by feeling and knowing who you are and feeling you out. Cardinal energy, they either lack the boundaries that they don't have with other people and do too much to support them when they maybe shouldn't, or draw a line, or they're always the one pushing the boundaries, drawing the line, and getting an emotional response. And it stems a lot with this feeling of love and fear, running, what I mean? A lot of times Cancer can push people out of their life because the emotional reassurance they get never feels quite good enough. They keep imagining more scenarios or more things, or reading into what did that mean, or why did you do that. Their sensitivities are too just not contained. They're ruled by the moon, a fast moving moon, the phases of the moon, and they can push people out of their life by, when they're insecure, which it happens a lot, they can keep pushing people out of their life by getting a reaction to it, just to see how they feel. If they're upset, that means that they do care because they feel, but I just got them upset, but I can't, say that I caused them to be upset. I just need to know how you feel about me. I don't, I want to know that I'm safe with you, but as it relates to you, it's like, there's kind of like a block sometimes. If there's a fear, there's a block. If there's no fear, there's attunement. So the fine line that Cancer has between others is really learning how to step out of your own emotions, which is not an easy thing for Cancer to do. But Mercury being mental and being retrograde right now, being internal, is really giving us this opportunity to really process, digest, and regulate our feelings, our sensitivities, as it relates to the people that matter most in our life. This is also giving us a good opportunity to find more clarity, or dynamics within the family that may have been a dysfunction, or not being understood about feelings. It's giving us an opportunity that Cancer usually has a hard time with, to get them more in here through here. And I think that this Cancer new moon really is going to be helpful to make us understand that being over-identified with other people's responses and reactions, as well as our own responses and our reactions and habits, is going to help us look at ourselves for our own growth and see our behavior a little bit more, see our feelings, and understanding other people's feelings as it relates to their behavior. that matter most to us and to help clear those things up. But if we're still stuck in our feelings too much and stuck, right now it could be a time where things get set off to being worse, and then we get stuck in the past and we don't work through the residual layers of Jupiter and Cancer, and we create more misunderstandings of Mercury retrograde in Cancer. Being at the 21st degree, it is said to be a Sagittarius degree. So there's also, I guess, a seasoning to, a flavor to this Sagittarius, like expansion, travel, seeing the world kind of thing. I have been getting a little bit into the degree theory there. So there could be something as it relates to Sagittarius and travel and expanding the mind and your own philosophy, which correlates to Jupiter, which we just got out of Jupiter in Cancer. So it's kind of reminding us, I think, a little bit more of those layers as well that we're trying to shed. And the whole Jupiter also governs our morale. So does, Sagittarius, because it relates to our beliefs and our views. So anyway, I wanted to throw that one in there. But there's no major aspect going on with this new moon other than the Mercury retrograde. So it's all Cancer, and the moon is ruled by Cancer. So, it's just more of that new moon energy, which is all about setting intentions and fresh starts and new beginnings, and making sure that we're doing things good. We're being more holy, more sacred. We're kind of mimicking a little bit of monk behavior, because new moons help replenish the cerebral spinal fluid in our systems, which is that holy oil that we rise through good behavior and right intention. So this Cancer new moon is giving us major initiations to really get in touch with ourselves from a less personal standpoint that Cancer often deals with, because this Mercury retrograde that is allowing the Cancer emotions to go in their head a little bit and process and be a little bit more objective, but like I said, if you don't process them correctly, you can create more and more misunderstandings and more things cycled in the past, and get more recycle those old habits more, and those reactions and those responses. So it is a good time to really think about our reactions, our responses, and understand how we affect other people's behaviors, reactions, and responses, and really go through this process and digest it all, and learn how to not take things so personally, not be so sensitive, not read into it so much through a state of fear, but really get in touch with our own intuition that we can attune to for our own growth. Because Cancer lacks that with their over-identification of their clan and their response, and the clan's response to them. So this new moon is very, very important for our whole emotional regulation. And we just also had Venus square Uranus. And that also is another major thing that's going on right now. Venus square Uranus. Venus is in Virgo now, and Uranus is in Gemini. This is like, we could be experiencing right now a little bit of unwelcome disruptions that we may not want to deal with. Venus is the way that we would like to do as we please, and Uranus is about things that are out of our control, that change our progress, but it's always meant for the better. So The square, though, is a hard aspect where it causes pressure and it causes friction, stress. But square's intention is to break apart and break down the energy into constructive use and motivational energy. So it's really important right now with Venus square to Uranus that we basically we want to understand what this new change in progress actually is, to help us do as we please. And we may, in the moment, it may not be something that we like. And because Venus governs our relationships as well, there can be some out of the blue disruptions in our relationships, or even some random status change in our relationships, even some kind of disruption where something that we need to change our progress, change course on, as it relates to our relationships and doing as we please and what we like and what we prefer. Because Uranus is all about progress. And Uranus being in Gemini and Venus being in Virgo, Virgo is all about the plans, the agendas, the routines, and our health. And then Gemini, this could relate to, with Uranus and Gemini, could relate to pieces of information or messages, or can relate to just new concepts, or just anything pertaining to communication. And it also, with Virgo being about the plans and the agendas and the routines, Virgo's always on time and Gemini's always late. So there could be a dynamic of energy where the things that we plan for a certain time aren't going to happen at the time we wanted it to, or there's a delay, or things aren't going to happen at all because of some other course, some other progress change. So Venus square Uranus is also something that we're feeling very strongly right now, and we will for probably the next day or two too. I think it peaked yesterday, but we're still very much in that resonance. So it's really interesting because that kind of can help also tie into what is related to whatever that change of course through something that we may not like that gets brought up now is giving us this opportunity to set forth these new intentions as it relates to this Cancer new moon, as it relates to feelings, emotions, sensitivities, and the things that matter to us the most: family, home, the mother, our most personal sense of security and our own sacredness as well. This is a new moon that is going to help us get in touch with who we are, where we come from, where we're going, and the clarity that can happen now. However, if we don't use it the right way and we remain unconscious of it and we respond and react to it like we've always had, this is going to be a highly chaotic time for everyone that's doing that. There's two paths here that it can go. You choose the course right now. You have an opportunity to really course correct some things, or you have the opportunity to stay in the past and let things chaotically drag on. And right now, I think that this is a great time to really get involved with your whole inner sacredness and your whole feelings of what matters most. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. For all you guys, don't just take care, but give care too. And I will see you on the next video.